This is Caribbean News Desk. I'm Dennis Chabrol. In this edition, the universities of Guyana and West Indies are still working on a new agreement to manage the law degree program being offered in Guyana. The Bahamas to put another terrorist group on Caricom's agenda. A call in Dominica for tougher sexual offences laws. The United States Vice President and Caribbean leaders are to discuss energy in Washington, D.C. later this month. Barbados' unemployment rises. And Puerto Rico probing a death threat against the President of the Dominican Republic. Details coming up.
We are one Caribbean, one people, one nation, facing the same destiny. So separated we are, as one let's come together. One market economy, Caribbean is how it should be. Let's support Caricom.
The University of Guyana and the University of the West Indies KFL campus are yet to reach agreement on continued collaboration in the management of the Guyana Law Degree Program. Guyana's Attorney General Anil Nandalal hopes that the two universities will arrive at an agreement that will be taken to the Council of Legal Education. The council is due to meet in Grenada early next month. Noting that the University of Guyana has made a proposal to the Faculty of Law at the UWI KFL campus, the Attorney General said that he is keen on ensuring that a more than 10-year-old collaboration between the two institutions continues. This, he says, is key to ensuring that UG's law degree is delivered to the highest standards.
Speaking as a representative of Guyana on the Council, my preference has always been and will continue to be a continuation of an arrangement that will continue to associate the UGLLB with that of the University of the West, because I believe that it is important for the integrity of the degree program, and it is important for the quality control mechanism to continue to be in place to ensure that there is no dilution of standard at the University of Guyana.
Guyana's Attorney General Anil Nandalal. The Bahamas plans to put the issue of the terrorist attacks in Nigeria by the group Boko Haram on the agenda of the next summit of Caricom leaders. Prime Minister Perry Christie said in a statement that his decision to have regional leaders discuss the issue is a show of solidarity among countries that respect peace and the dignity of human life. The Islamist militant group slaughtered hundreds of persons around Baga, a town in Borno State, earlier this month. The Bahamas Prime Minister says his country expresses its profound sorrow and regret to the government of Nigeria over the loss of life in the wake of the recent attack by that terrorist group. Mr. Christie says the Bahamas' mission in Havana has been directed to communicate the country's message of regret to the Nigerian ambassador there. Caricom has already agreed to discuss the issue of Islamic State of Iraq and Syria or ISIS, particularly against the backdrop of the fact that a number of Caribbean nationals, mainly from Trinidad and Tobago, have gone to Syria to fight for that group. Meanwhile, at least 143 members of the Boko Haram Islamic terrorist group have been killed in clashes with the Cameroonian security forces. Cameroonian Communications Minister Issa Bakary says that an attack preceding the fighting, Boko Haram militants assaulted the headquarters of Cameroon's Rapid Intervention Battalion in the northwest of the country near the Nigerian border in a bid to take over the base on Monday. Bakary told state television that one Cameroonian soldier died and 4 others were wounded in the 5 hours of fighting which ended when the Boko Haram group fled towards the Nigerian-Cameroonian border. The attack came a week after Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau threatened in a video on the internet to launch attacks against Cameroon. The radical group is fighting to establish an Islamic State in Nigeria and has killed 12,000 people over the last 5 years. Speaker of the Dominica Parliament, Alex Boyd-Knights, is making a case for tougher penalties in Dominica to deal with sexual offenders in that island. She says the law needs to be tightened and a protocol put in place to deal with reports of sexual offences.
The Sexual Offences Act is deficient in one major particular. It is this. When a child of 14, 15 presents herself at the hospital, very pregnant, ready to give birth, not the doctor, not the nurse, not the wardsmaid, not the person who accompanied that child to the hospital, none of them are obliged to inform the police that they have evidence of a crime. If a 14-year-old child or a 15-year-old child is pregnant, somebody committed a crime against her. Nobody's obliged.
Her call came as the criminal session of the court officially opened Tuesday with 38 matters in the case list dominated by sexual offences. Mrs. Boyd-Knights is an attorney and is also a strong advocate for the protection of sexually abused children. Our former Trinidad and Tobago energy minister is predicting an overall economic downturn as a result of tumbling oil prices. This has forced the government of that oil-rich Caribbean country to revise the revenue at which the national budget is pegged from $80 per barrel to $45. Former Energy Minister Conrad Enel told Power 102 FM that he forecasts an overall drop in spending.
I think that the Prime Minister indicated to Trinidad and Tobago that we do have a problem. If you have to revise your budget from 80 to 45, what it means is that the external market has changed. And insofar as that is concerned, I think that every single individual should take note that we are unable to maintain the revenues that we had. I feel, though, that the Prime Minister could have indicated to the country that notwithstanding the government has the ability to find money for the shortfall, that is to say, she has identified that you are going to once again be into deficit spending and you are going to use the proceeds from the sale of assets to meet your shortfall. That is not how every other single business in Trinidad and Tobago works. So if every other business in Trinidad and Tobago finds itself in similar circumstances, it will have to move to reduce its expenditure.
The Trinidad and Tobago government also plans to cut non-essential expenditure while at the same time protecting jobs and keeping intact its social programs like health, education and housing. The United States plans to bring together Caribbean leaders in Washington, D.C. later this month for the first ever Caribbean Energy Security Summit. The meeting is slated for January 26. The White House says that U.S. Vice President Joe Biden hopes that Caribbean leaders and representatives of the international community will use the opportunity to promote a cleaner and more sustainable energy future in the Caribbean through improved energy governance, greater access to finance, and donor coordination. The summit will include remarks by the Vice President, an energy security roundtable with heads of government, and meetings and events with government officials, representatives from the private sector, and officials from multilateral institutions. The summit is a key component of the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative that the Vice President announced in June 2014 and will be hosted by the White House and the State Department in partnership with the Atlantic Council and the Council of the Americas. Barbados' unemployment rose from 11.6% in 2013 to 12.5% in 2014. The island's fiscal deficit as a percentage of gross domestic product increased from 8.6% in the 2012-2013 year to 12.3% for the 2013-2014 year. Government revenue dropped while expenditure increased for the same period. However, the governor of the central bank, Dr. Delisle Worrell, is projecting growth in 2015.
The economy is poised to achieve growth of about 2% in 2015 because of tourism and construction activity and the spin-off effects to wholesale, retail, and business services sectors. The tourism industry is expected to benefit from increases of 9% and 20% in airlift from the US and Canada respectively during the winter season. An estimated $300 million of construction activity is currently slated to be underway in 2015, mostly in the private sector.
He also projects a decline of the deficit to 5% of GDP due to existing and new revenue-generating measures this year. The Puerto Rico Police Department is investigating a threat against the life of Dominican President Danilo Medina, who is visiting the island on Tuesday to sign a cooperation agreement with the government of the U.S. Commonwealth. A police spokesperson said that a threat was delivered at 9:40 a.m. via an anonymous telephone call to the Puerto Rico Police Department. The caller, described as a woman who spoke with a Dominican accent, said 3 men would mount an attack on Medina during a stay in Puerto Rico. Police are taking the threat seriously, according to a spokesperson. Medina arrived early Tuesday and said he stepped off the plane that he felt at home in Puerto Rico, emphasizing the close relationship between his country and the island. The president is to meet with Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla, while 12 members of his cabinet confer with the heads of Puerto Rican government agencies to finalize the accords that will be signed later Tuesday. Garcia Padilla and Medina, who are also scheduled to take part in a public tribute to Dominican independence hero Juan Pablo Duarte and Puerto Rican anti-colonial activist Eugenio Maria de Hostos, who died in the Dominican Republic. Medina's one-day visit is set to end with a Puerto Rican Dominican cultural festival in San Juan's Hato Rey neighborhood. More than 300,000 people of Jamaican descent and other individuals in Canada will be able to trade securities on the Jamaica Stock Exchange starting on April 1. The Jamaican government said Tuesday that the Jamaica Stock Exchange, or JSE, is set to receive authorization from the Canadian government that will open the way for trading via the Internet. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Arnaldo Brown, who has responsibility for diaspora affairs, said that the JSC was pursuing similar arrangements for Jamaicans living in the United States and Britain. The government estimates that more than 3 million Jamaicans are in the diaspora, with the majority of them living in the United States, Canada, and Britain.
We are 15 states with a common goal, a unified purpose to face the world, enriching lives, empowering people, creating a strong economic region. No matter where you're from, no hassle, just freedom. Whether business, school, or pleasure, we will benefit together. The Caricom single market, good for you and me. The Caricom single market, good for you and me. The Caricom single market, good for you and me. Oh yeah!
And just before we go, a recap of our stories that we've been covering today. The universities of Guyana and the West Indies are still working on a new agreement to manage a law degree programming offered in Guyana. The Bahamas to put another terrorist group on Caricom's agenda, that's the Boko Haram in Nigeria. A call in Dominica for tougher sexual offences laws. The United States Vice President and Caribbean leaders are to discuss energy in Washington, D.C. later this month. Barbados' unemployment rises, and Puerto Rico probing a death threat against the President of the Dominican Republic. Thank you for joining us. That's it for Caribbean News Desk for today. I'm Dennis Chabrol.